And I think this brings up an interesting point, Michael.
Okay, now speaking of life, death, resurrection, there's a related concept that comes up in the fringes here, which is reincarnation. Not resurrection, but reincarnation. Uh, there's some theory floating around that the early church taught reincarnation, but that this truth of the faith was condemned at the Second Council of Constantinople in the 6th century. I was not there at the council. I don't think reincarnation was condemned there because I don't think it was ever taught in the first place. Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No, you're right. It is an interesting accusation because we know approximately what the Second Council of Constantinople was. It was called for the goal of doubling down on the Chalcedonian Creed, which affirmed dogmatically that Jesus was both fully God and fully man, combating the heresy of Nestorianism, which taught that Jesus' divinity and humanity were separate and that Jesus was actually comprised of two separate persons, the human Jesus and the divine Logos. And so you would first have to establish that something like reincarnation was even on the table for this conversation. And also, you have to account for all of the manuscripts of the Bible that predate the 6th century and would not have been known at that time, because we have copies of, say, the Gospel of John, the Gospel of Matthew, certainly all of the Pauline epistles that were buried in places like Egypt and Syria hundreds of years before the Council of Constantinople ever happened. So if we're pulling out a doctrine, we really have to ascribe some sort of almost omnipotent ability
Mm.
for the individuals at this time to go find these manuscripts, alter them, put them back in the sand for us to find, in the 19th century, and date them to that time and do this systematically throughout all of the ancient world. And I think this brings up an interesting point, Michael. These types of accusations, reincarnation not being compatible with historical Christianity or ancient Judaism aside, um, what this assumes is impossible because we know from the dissemination of how the Christian documents were copied and then spread throughout the ancient world that it negated any one group or one person controlling the text of those documents at any one point in time for this exact reason, because the early Christians were very eager to get these documents in the hands of people.